They ran a 45-2 going a mile. I think the stretch out will just benefit this one. I don't see anyone else besides maybe Gray Magician going to the lead in here, so Mario Gutierrez could slow things down for Bob Baffert on the front end. And then the number 8 in the third spot is Neptune Storm. Going to be sitting right in a nice stalking roll coming out of the Hill Prince as well at Belmont. The winner of that race beating a Thread of Blue in Henley's Joy, but just was a little bit closer to the pace than Henley's Joy that day, and kind of had the ideal trip, sitting a length off the entire day with Ricardo Santana Jr. You get Richard Baltas, and again you get Ricardo on board. I'll use Neptune Storm, who's been in really good form this year. Four wins and 8 starts, hits the board every single time. You're getting 4-1 there, but in the Twilight Derby, 11-9, 8-3.
I'm in the same boat pretty much. 8, 9, 10, and 11. Just have juggled things up a little bit. I put Neptune Storm on top. Came east, tried the Hill Prince, won there. I think that signals the horse is in very good form right now. Should be a solid contender in here. Kingly, as Sully said, likely speed, and just may kind of take them all the way around. There's not a whole lot of other speed in here to challenge. We'll know going into the first turn, certainly going into the backstretch. But if this horse is kind of loping along a length and a half in front, could be very tough to reel in. Gray Magician, the interesting horse, has not tried the turf yet in the career, and has been, one of those, what we get every year, kind of, for lack of a better term, second-tier stakes level 2-year-olds, hitting things. Tried the Kentucky Derby off a second-place finish in the UAE Derby, but ran 19th in the Kentucky Derby, but then second in the Indiana Derby, won the Ellis Park Derby, close-up second in the Smarty Jones. And a lot of times these kind of horses that have shown some 3-year-old talent on the dirt in stakes action move over to the turf, and they wind up to be okay if they take to the turf. They wind up to be competitive with stakes quality 3-year-old turf runners. Now, we'll see how this works out for Gray Magician, because, again, the question mark is the surface switch. But as I say, in these kind of situations, if they do take to the turf, they can wind up to be very, very competitive. So I'll put Gray Magician in the mix as well. Third race at Santa Anita, Twilight Derby, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
First Breeders' Cup race of the day is race number 4. This is the Filly and Mare Sprint. $1 million on the line. They're going at 7 on the main track.
I have it 4, 1, 9, and 8. I put Come Dancing on top. I could have probably flipped a coin and gone either way, Come Dancing or Covfefe. But I just thought, given the post positions, Come Dancing is in a little more of an attack position and can see what Covfefe does. Covfefe is obviously going to be aimed for the front coming out of that one hole. But again, you also have an older horse versus a 3-year-old. Covfefe, the only time she's faced older, that was her only blemish on the record this year. So again, they're closely matched to me, but I put Come Dancing on top for Carlos Martin, Javier Castellano on board. Covfefe's a monster. This will be a fun race to watch just to see what these two do. Spice Perfection in the third spot, coming out of the win in the stakes race at Keeneland last time, and Dawn the Destroyer for Kieran. I think both of these have the potential to upset if things fall apart for the top two. They probably have to step it up as compared to the top two, but it's Breeders' Cup Day, and anything can happen. And if those top two do falter a little bit, I think either one of these, the 9 Spice Perfection or the 8 Dawn the Destroyer, have the capability to juice things up a little bit, as this race will kick off a pick 4 as well. But in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, for me, 4, 1, 9, and 8.
I went 4, 1, and 6 in here. And last year was the only year in the short history of this race that a 3-year-old won, and that was Shamrock Rose. And Come Dancing, to me, I know for a fact, and you're not going to get 5-2 in here. And Covfefe, deserving favorite, and I just think of Covfefe in the test this year, and beating Serengeti Empress. That was an unbelievable race up at Saratoga, and then came back and dominated in a field where she should have dominated at Churchill Downs. Her only loss this year is to Mia Miship, where she didn't look great on the rail, had a terrible start, and was still able to run third by 3/4 of a length. So, she ran a 107 in the Miss Preakness as well, dominated that field coming out of a very good Keeneland race. So she's been very good this year. better than very good. She's won nice races at the 7 furlongs where I had question marks of her stretching out to 7, even though it's a small stretch out from 6 to 7. She's answered every call, but Come Dancing, if anyone's better on paper, it's Come Dancing. The last 2 have been more than impressive, beating Dawn and Destroyer by 3 in the Ballerina at Saratoga. Actually went off as the favorite in the Oshkosh Phipps behind Midnight Bizou, and finished second that second that day, going a mile and a 16th. So they tried stretching Come Dancing out to the mile and a 16th because the Ruffian was so impressive at Belmont. They said, why not try the Grade 1 Oshkosh Phipps? Then went to the Ballerina, back to sprinting, and then the Grade 2 after at Belmont Park. So, Come Dancing, 5-2. I can't imagine that's going to stay. If so, I think that's a really nice early value with Come Dancing. She is a monster in here, and she's going to be facing younger, and probably the better on paper are younger. Which brings me to Bellafina, and Bellafina is an interesting horse in here as well. She's a horse that has not won outside of the state of California. She's 4 for 4 over the Santa Anita surface, and the last couple have not been great, including the Test, the Kentucky Oaks, and last time out in the Cotillion. I think the cut, again, is going to help this horse out. They tried the Test. Obviously, Covfefe and Saragani Empress were just that much better, but sprinting at Santa Anita last January, she looked very good, winning by 8, and then winning again the next time out. She beat a nice horse in Mother, sprinting coming out of that Breeders' Cup Juvenile last time in the last year's Breeders' Cup. So Bellafina is interesting at 6-1. I'm going to use underneath in here, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Come Dancing and Covfefe. I went 4, 1, 6, and 5.
All right, let's head to a break. When we come back, we'll continue our look at Breeders' Cup Saturday. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Albany County, an incredible destination to live, work, and play, with easy connections to more than a dozen cities from our vibrant modern airport. It's a short trip downtown to a hive of culture and amusement, from world-class shows at the newly renovated Times Union Center to reliving the past at the New York State Museum. From outdoor recreation to shopping to nightlife, Albany County has something for everyone. We'll see you soon.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Seth, Merrow, and Sully Crotty on this Saturday morning. Didn't mention at the top of the show, the new mobile site. If you bet with CapitalOTB.com, the new mobile site goes live on Monday. So if you log on via your phone, you will automatically be directed to the brand new site with all the brand new bells and whistles. So be aware of that. New mobile site active on Monday. All right, let's jump back into Santa Anita, race number 5 on this Saturday afternoon. Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, Grade 1 event, $1 million up for grabs. Nice full competitive field in here. Sully, what do you think?
10-1-7-3. I went with Eddie Haskell in here. Mark Latt and Joel Rosario ran in the Eddie D last time out, losing to Pee Wee Reese. And Pee Wee Reese has won a lot of races at Santa Anita, and is a really good sprinter there. And Pee Wee Reese went right up the rail, and Eddie Haskell got shuffled back and still was able to finish second. I thought that was impressive, considering Eddie Haskell's a horse that likes to sit a length off the lead, if not get the lead. So Joel Rosario's got a lot of speed with the 6-year-old. Looked great in the Daytona, and ever since then kind of strung together a lot of nice wins. Finished, as I said, second to a really nice horse who has had a lot of success over the turf course. Second spot, I went with the number 1, Totally Boss. And I try to find a horse that you're getting a decent price with that has good closing speed, especially with the turf sprints. And Totally Boss is one of those horses that has shown good closing speed. Last time out, went a little bit closer to the front end at Kentucky Downs and ran a 1-on-1 buyer and got the job done at 4-1. Heading into that race, ran at Ellis Park and was way off the pace going 5. Was 9th by 5 1/4. And was able to run by the entire field there. So I think the closing speed with Totally Boss could be very dangerous in here. The buyers since last May, they have just gone skyrocketing for this one, and Totally Boss in here I like, especially towards the rail. Yesterday in the Breeders' Cup race, Jose had a nice closing speed horse and brought the horse close to the lead. Ran second that day behind Four-Wheel Drive yesterday, but still, I thought it was a good effort there. I can imagine Jose doing the same thing this afternoon. And then the number 7 is Leinster, George Arnold, Tyler Gaffleone. A lot of speed with Leinster. Leinster is a horse that I think needs to break well. 2 starts back, was 4 wide, but closed really, really well from a stalking roll. Circled the field 5 wide last time out in the Woodford at Keeneland. Ran second that day behind Steubens. Imprimis was also in that field, who I'm going to use third, and I think at 8-1 with Joe Orsino and Frankie Dettori is a little bit of a gift there. But lines to the last 3 have been very impressive, dating back to that Troy, that 108 buyer in that short Troy field with the scratch of World of Trouble. Was the widest of them all and was able to run by everyone. So race 5, as you said, really nice, competitive race. Great betting race. I went 10-1, 7-3.
7-2, 11-4 for me. I put Leinster on top, and I'm hoping we get back to that Troy. It is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. You would have to think there's going to be some speed that he can stalk, and Leinster has enough speed to be kind of up in the mix and then maybe get first jump on other closers. And hopefully we get, as I say, that scenario we saw in the Troy at Saratoga, 20 and change, 43, 54 and change, and 5.5 furlongs in 1:1/5. Just an incredible performance there with a solid buyer number. I'm hoping we get back to that performance now. A couple of starts since then, the number went backwards a little bit, but improved last time as compared to 2 back. So maybe we're primed to get back to that effort. And pace-wise, again, being the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, I think we'll have some speed to shoot at. Leinster on top, Pure Sensation in the second spot. The horse is 8 years old. That is the question mark. But how do you knock the horse that's 4 for 5 this year, despite the age? So comes in as kind of the elder statesman, but a bona fide turf stakes sprinter, and has proven it again this year. And Ohm in the third spot, the 11 post position, and a second in the Jaipur 2 back behind World of Trouble, and won an allowance race last time. The knock is that last race was at the end of June. That a layoff like that in a tough race like this is, as I say, a concern. But the last 2 workouts were pretty good, particularly that October 26th. 46 and change. So we'll see if we can get that one in the mix at a pretty good 15-1 morning line price. Leinster's 8-1 on the morning line. So I think it's a race that has the opportunity to offer a little bit of value. 5th at Santa Anita, Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, 7-2, 11-4.
Moving on to the 6th race this afternoon. This is the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. 2 turns on the main track, $1 million on the line for 3-year-olds and up. What did you see in the Dirt Mile?
5, 9, 7, and 4. I'll put Omaha Beach on top with some trepidation, but boy, that comeback. This is a horse that had high hopes as a 3-year-old this year. Shipped from Southern California to Arkansas to take the Rebel. Followed that up with a win in the Arkansas Derby, and then went to the sidelines after that April 13th race. Came back on October 5th behind Chancelot, and we all remember what Chancelot did up here at Saratoga, and Chancelot looked pretty good coming into the stretch in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, but coming up the rail was Omaha Beach, grinding, got the win by a head. Now, does that race take something out of this horse, or does that just signal this was the early promise was the real deal, and this is a very special horse. I'll hope that's the case. So I'll put Omaha Beach on top. But again, a little bit of trepidation. Diamond Oops in the second spot, 15-1 on the morning line. But the workout reports coming out of Florida in prep for this have been pretty good. Good second last time in the Shadwell Turf Mile. So I think you combine that Keeneland race with good reports on the workouts, Julian Lepereau on board. I think, again, at the 15-1 price, we may have an interesting little value play in the mix. And Coal Front, who, boy, off of that Godolphin Mile, you thought this horse is going to be a monster this year because he had won a couple just before that, the Mr. Prospector towards the end of last year, and then the Razorback at Oaklawn. Ships to Dubai, wins the Godolphin Mile, so he's now has a 3-race win streak. And as I say, you think, oh, he is going to be a monster this year. Disappoints in the Met Mile, disappoints in the Monmouth Cup. But last time at Park seemed to maybe get back on track. Who knows? Maybe the Dubai trip took a little something out of the horse, and now we're finally getting back to decent form. But again, going back to what we saw towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, I'm hoping we're rounding back to that promise, and Coal Front will give a good account of himself on Saturday. Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, 5-9, 7-4.
I did go with Coal Front on top, 7-4, 5-1. As you said, the Godolphin Mile over in Maidan was unbelievable there with Jose Ortiz to get Javier aboard for the first time since Keeneland in 2017. But as you said, Coal Front, the Met Mile, I didn't give him much of a shot in the Met Mile because of how stacked that field was. And, you know, it's just his type of running style and the amount of speed that was in the Met Mile. I'm like, Coal Front's going to have a little bit of trouble there. But Coal Front's going to probably get to the lead again this afternoon. We know this horse can run 2 turns, ran well in the Razorback. And then the Mr. Prospector was 1 turn down at Gulfstream, but looked very good on the front end there. Beat, I thought, a pretty good Razorback field at Oaklawn last February. Beat Radar Superstar, who came back to win a stakes race. And the next time out at the Met Mile, I thought the Monmouth Cup was very good. War Story's a horse that has been in good form this year. Bal Harbor as well. It went down to Keeneland and actually ran a really nice race down to Keeneland to close out the meet. The next time out beat Diamond King. Diamond King has been running well in 2019. So Coal Front, I know it can run the 2 turns. Has ran well, I thought, in the last couple 2-turn races and should get to the front end. Let's see if Javier can slow things down and try to hold off the closing speed in here. Mr. Money is probably the other horse speed-wise that I'm going to use. And I like the horses on the front end. The speed was very good yesterday. We'll see if that continues here. Had a bad loss in the Pennsylvania Derby. I mean, I thought Mr. Money, after you saw the half mile, you're like, it's going to be very tough to catch this horse on the front end. And here comes Math Wizard. Not taking anything away from Math Wizard, but Mr. Money on the front end this year has been very good, and I know he went to some other locations where he could have ran in the Travers or in the Haskell, but he decided to go to the West Virginia Derby, the Indiana Derby, and then the PA Derby. He ran really well. I'm surprised he got caught running a 49. So Mr. Money, I'm going to use the 2 speeds on top. And then Omaha Beach, as you said, was very good last time out. Running against Chancelot, getting back to 2 turns. We'll see how he does. But if it's anything like the Rebel or the Arkansas Derby, Omaha Beach is going to have a very good shot, as you can tell, and how great he's been this year to beat some older horses. So for me, I went 7-4, 5-1.
Race number 7 at Santa Anita, the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. They're going 1.25 miles on the grass for $2 million.
10, 2, 7, and 3. 7 is. I was looking forward to this race, and with Sister Charlie and then Magical coming over, it was going to be a great race. But I've been a fan of Mississippi ever since I first started Saratoga. I liked her in there and got the job done in the Glens Falls, and then I liked her the next time out in the Flower Bowl. And she ran an unbelievable race. I mean, watch her and Sister. I'm not taking anything away from Sister Charlie, but she did not break well at all. And I know it doesn't matter because she's a horse that closes, but she hit the gate for Graham Motion, and she was 17 lengths off the lead in a 7-horse field and was able to almost run by Sister Charlie. She lost by 3/4 of a length. The Graham Motion runners have been running very well on the grass this year, as you saw yesterday with another nice price for Graham Motion. And Mississippi's a horse that is going to try to run down Sister Charlie again. And I think today she has the best chance out of anyone because of how good she's looked in New York this year and her starts here in America. So I like the Graham Motion runner on top. She has a serious closing kick. We just need a little bit of speed on the front end, which is what you should get with some of these Euros who like to go to the front end. The 2 is Sister Charlie. I'm not taking anything away from her in here. She's definitely the real deal. She's the defending champion in this race. She's won 5, 6 in a row. Her only blemish was in the New York last year, losing the 4-star Crook. But, you know, she also ran an impressive race in the Flower Bowl last time out. But, you know, I think if she runs a 95 buyer in here, she could definitely get beat. But if she runs her 105s consistently, like we saw in the Diana and then the Beverly D, she's going to be tough to beat. And she's deserving favorite in here, and no arguments towards her. And then Basilica, the 7 in here, I think is very interesting at 8-1. Flavien Prat and Basilica. This is a horse that has another serious closing kick, and you think about that the last fall or not last winter at Del Mar, where she won off as the favorite against Uni, and Uni just was 8 wide that day and ran by everyone. Daddy is a Legend was also in that deep 13-horse field. Since then, she ran very well leading into that race. She ran well in that race, and she's ran well since, and she looked great in the First Lady behind Uni at Keeneland. Uni had an unbelievable closing kick that day. 8-1, more than fair on Basilica, and she's raced probably going to be the favorite later on in the card in Uni. So for me, I stuck with the Americans in here. I used the Euro in the 3rd spot and 4th spot in Fleeting. I went 10, 2, 7, and 3.
I have a 2, 10, 9, and 7. I put Sister Charlie on top, but I agree. Mississippi is very competitive, given how close they were last time in the Flower Bowl. But, boy, Sister Charlie just looks like a monster. Now, her number went backwards a little bit last time. If that was a signal of something, again, maybe Mississippi is a way to tilt. But I think the more likely option is that we get back to one of the better numbers for Sister Charlie, making her very, very tough. Again, Mississippi, given how close they were last time, is right in the mix with me. 3rd slot, we'll take a look at number 9, Villa Marina. Of the Europeans, this one's interesting to me. One on the ARC undercard a few weeks back, in a Group 1 over in France. And I just think that sets her up nicely for this race this afternoon. There are some Europeans in here who are interesting, and I will say, coming up a little bit later on Racing Across America, we will continue our discussion with Nick Luck, the European analyst for NBC Sports. Steve Bick also, we continue our discussion with him. He's got a long shot he likes in here. Nick Luck liked one as well. But I'll mention, because it was on yesterday's show, we talked with Frank Miramati. He mentioned Iridessa as one he thought looked really good on the track over the past few days. So just put that in mind. But of the Europeans, to me, I tilted towards Villa Marina. In the Filly and Mare Turf, for me, 2, 10, 9, and 7.
The 8th race this afternoon, this is the Breeders' Cup Sprint, going at 6 furlongs for 3-year-olds and up.
Yeah, this may be the most anticipated race of the weekend, and I'm right in that ballpark. I went 9, 4, 6, and 1. Imperial Hint ran 3rd in this race last year, but I'm going back to the Vanderbilt up at Saratoga, which was just an incredible performance. I'm hoping we get back to that. This horse won the Vosburg last time in a nice gutsy performance. Came out of the Vosburg last year again to run 3rd in this race. But I think the horse is in better form right now. Boy, the last couple of workouts are very good. Now, the question mark will be the move over to Santa Anita. The last couple of workouts were at Monmouth, and so we'll see how this one performs over the Santa Anita surface. But I'm hoping this horse can do what we saw in the Vanderbilt and get it done this afternoon. But Mitoli is a monster. Chancelot, what we saw in the Amsterdam up at Saratoga, yikes. And both of those have been working well. That gate workout from Mitoli had people buzzing. And so not only is this horse coming in good form off the nice win in the Forego at the end of the Saratoga meet, but has been out at Santa Anita for a while and is performing very well over the surface. Chancelot also very well. over the surface in the mornings since arriving at Santa Anita, and also just some eye-popping workouts. So those two, to me, very, very dangerous. Looking forward to this. Catalina Cruiser is a Southern California-based horse, and that's the one that may pick up the pieces if the top three don't get it done coming east to west. But as I say, Matoli and Chancelot have had some nice experience now in the mornings over the track. We'll see how it all plays out. But with those four in there, Frenzy Fire, Whitmore, Engage, this is a really, really interesting edition of the Breeders' Cup Sprint. As I say, maybe the most anticipated race of the 2 days. I have it 9, 4, 6, and 1.
I went 1, 9, 4, and 5. I went with Catalina Cruiser in here, and I just think this horse has been in great form this year. Since the True North at Belmont, beating Strike Power and Recruiting Ready. The next time out was able to beat Mongolian Groom. We know what Mongolian Groom did the next time out, and we'll see how he runs later on the card. And then Giant Expectations as well. So this is a horse that was wide last time out, had a game effort to run by Giant Expectations, cleared, just was able to hang on and throw the game effort in the San Diego to beat Mongolian Groom, who's running later on the card. I just think this is a horse that hates to be passed, and if there are horses in front of him in the stalking room, he's going to run by them like we saw in the True North. So I'll use the horse that's based in California, 7 for 8. Lifetime, the only blemish being the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year, losing the City of Light. We know what City of Light did the next time out. So I like Catalina Cruiser in this spot, looking to go 8 for 9 in the career. The number 9 in here is Imperial Hint, and how good was the Vosburg last time out? Imperial Hint was beat by Frenzy Fire and had a game effort and just somehow won on the rail that day. Ran a 114 buyer at Saratoga and the Vanderbilt, as we know, beating Diamond Oops and Matoli. So Imperial Hint, I think, is in great form. He was in good form last year heading into the Breeders' Cup Sprint and finished 3rd that day and really didn't look the same. So that's the only thing I have a little hesitation with Imperial Hint, but he looks much better this year heading in from the Vanderbilt and the Vosburg than he did last year. And then Matoli, as you said, has been working well. I mean, I think with the amount of speed in here, Chancelot's going to go to the lead, and Matoli's a horse that needs the lead to win. If he doesn't get the lead, you kind of saw what happens. 2 back. He tried to go to the lead. They were flying up front, finished 3rd, and then earlier on in the career, way earlier on in the career, he didn't get the lead as well. But I think there's enough speed in here where Matoli's going to have a tough time. I'm going to look for horses that can win from off the pace, like Imperial Hint and Catalina Cruiser in here. But it's probably the most competitive field of the afternoon, the Breeders' Cup Sprint. But in the sprint, I went 1, 9, 4, and 5.
We'll take another break, come back, complete our look at Breeders' Cup Saturday. Stay tuned.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Now it's a global series. The best racers from all over the world, the best trainers, the best jockeys.
You can get a free entry into the Breeders' Cup, and everybody wants to run in a Breeders' Cup race.
You get your travel expenses paid for the Breeders' Cup. Automatic berth takes a lot of pressure off.
If we're considering 2 different races and one was a win and you're in and one was a not, that would be the tiebreaker.
It's probably the best thing that's happened to racing in the last 10 years.
Breeders' Cup Challenge, win, and you're in.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Don't forget, top of the hour racing across America. We will be joined by Randy Moss from NBC Sports. He'll give some Breeders' Cup thoughts and continue our conversations started yesterday. Steve Bick and Nick Luck We'll talk to them about the Saturday action as well. All of that coming up top of the hour, racing across America. Race 9 at Santa Anita on Saturday afternoon, Breeders' Cup Mile. Grade 1 event, couple $1 million up for grabs on the grass at, as the name suggests, 1 mile.
11, 9, 12, and 2. This is, with the bankroll plays, a lot of the pick 4s I went very deep and deserving, as you can see on paper, it's a tough race. I mean, I could make a case for the 14, the 2, the 6. I did go with Uni in here. I just think she's been in great form. I've always been a fan of Uni. I'm not holding anything against her for the 4-star Dave. We haven't seen her since that was her second start this year, or second start this year. She won the Del Mar race, as I talked about. Beating Daddy is a Legend, beating Basilica from way off the pace. She was 5 wide that day in the field of 13. Then she was in the field of 13 at Keeneland in the First Lady last time out. And if you watch that replay, you only see one horse moving, and that was Uni. So I think she's more than capable of running with the boys. We saw that in the 4-star Dave, where she was 17 lengths off the lead. She had enough pace to run into that day, but Got Stormy was a little closer to the lead. And I think if that race was a little bit longer, Uni would have caught Got Stormy that day. But I'm not holding anything against Got Stormy. I think Got Stormy, if she goes off as a favorite, deserving favorite in here. But nonetheless, I like Uni from the outside stall with the closing speed. The number 9, Circus Maximus for Aiden O'Brien. And I know Aiden O'Brien's horses didn't get done yesterday at some short prices, but this is a horse that at York in Great Britain ran in the Juddmonte International, ran against Japan and Crystal Ocean, 2 very, very good horses over in Europe. So this horse has been running well. The next time out did win in a Group 1 event. They're putting the blinkers on for the first time since that race, that Juddmonte International against Japan and Crystal Ocean. Ran well against Anthony Van Dyke as well earlier in the career. So I think the first time Lasix, the blinkers on. Aiden O'Brien, Ryan Moore. I don't think you can leave Circus Maximus off any of your exotics. And then the number 12 in here, Lord Glitters, another Euro in here. But a horse that's dropping a lot of poundage. Ran 6 by 3 lengths in the same race at Juddmonte International as the number 9 in here against Crystal Ocean in Japan. The next time out did not get the best of trips at Ascot, but it's also Ascot. So I think this horse likes to run the mile distances. Ran well in Group 1 races against some very good horses over in Europe. A winner 4 starts back by a neck at a nice 14-1 price. Lord Glitters has a serious closing kick. And again, I like to drop it to pounds and then putting Lasix on again, or the usage of Lasix again in this spot. But competitive race, obviously, it's a turf route. You're seeing the favorite right now at 3-1. I went 11, 9, 12, and 2.
I have it 6, 11, 9, and 5. Got Stormy she was one of the best stories up at Saratoga this year with the Della Rose and the 4-star Dave. After the really, really nice win in the Della Rose, I had Mark Cassie on that Thursday, I think it was, talking about potentially going against the boys in the 4-star Dave. And Mark said, I'm not sure whether I would lean towards it or not, but I'm not against it, and I'll leave it up to the owner. I told him I'd tell him how the horse was working out. We could go from there. And when he was sitting in with me on Thursday, he said, she was on the track this morning, she looks great. And so Gary Barber gave him the green light and said, let's go in the 4-star Dave. And they were clearly happy they did, because she looked great beating the boys in the 4-star Dave just 1 week after the Della Rose. Then they had a little time off and went up to the Woodbine Mile. We were up there and saw that. I thought she looked very good. Got upset by El Tormenta, but I still thought it was a pretty good race for her. Since then, 7 weeks off. So I think they've had a chance to kind of regroup and maybe get back to that Saratoga form. And if so, Got Stormy very tough. But yeah, Uni, that race, boy, she looked really good in the First Lady. She was 3rd behind Got Stormy against the boys in the 4-star Dave, 2 back, but the follow-up at Keeneland, very, very good. And then we'll take a look at the number 9 at Circus Maximus. Yeah, it comes out of the Group 1 win at Longchamp early in September. Aiden O'Brien, Ryan Moore of the Euros. That one is attractive to me in here. So in the Breeders' Cup Mile, I have it 6, 11, 9, and 5.
10th race this afternoon. This is the Breeders' Cup Distaff. 1 mile and an 1/8 on the main track. Fillies and mares here. Obviously with the big highlight in here being Midnight Bisou.
Midnight Bishu chasing a possible Horse of the Year eclipse if she goes undefeated. With the older division not really offering a whole lot this year, she becomes very interesting. We saw her 2 back in the personal ensign, looked very good with a stretch duel with a late, and then last time out, very convincing winner in the Beldame, albeit with the buyer number going backwards, but what more could you ask? She won by daylight in there. She has just looked phenomenal this year. Had Jeff Bloom on up at Saratoga talking about her. They're clearly thrilled with, and should be, with her performance this year, and kind of talking after the Beldame about the potential to move forward and chase a Horse of the Year eclipse. And they think an undefeated season puts her right in the thick of things. And as I said, I agree. So it's going to be an interesting kind of side story to this race to see how she does. But she's 7 for 7 this year. She seems to do what she has to do, improve the number, or if it doesn't need to be that high, she can still get it done given the competition she faces. So I'll put her on top. Paradise Woods is one of those horses. You look at the record overall, 5 wins and 17 starts. But I think she's better than her record. She's got over $1 million in the bank, and you see these horses every once in a while that Paradise Woods has, at various points in the career, had some buzz and some promise, and maybe hasn't quite lived up to it, but she's still very, very talented. So I think off the Zenyatta, the prep for this at Santa Anita, off the win there, she becomes a contender. And Blue Prize, like Paradise Woods, a horse that 9 wins and 22 career starts, that's pretty good, but you don't, when you're talking of the distaffers over the past 2 or 3 seasons that you really think of, Blue Prize maybe isn't coming into the conversation as readily as others, but still, she has that $1.5 million in the bank. She's in the hunt far, far more often than not, and I think that's going to be the case again today off the Spinster win at Keeneland last time. So the 10th at Santa Anita, Breeders' Cup Distaff, 4, 1, 11, and 5. I will say Ollie's Candy at 15 to 1 is a horse I think is a little bit interesting, and if the odds hold up, I might play around with that one a little bit too. But and that's the 2, Ollie's Candy. But I have it 4, 1, 11, and 5.
4, 3, 5, and 11. I did go with Midnight Bishu, just like you did. I mean, she's up for Horse of the Year. She's looked great this year. You can't say enough about her in here. And if you're trying to beat her, I know a lot of people are trying to construct pick 5s, and this is going to be their cut race, quote unquote. And she's looked great this year, and I'm not going to blame anyone for trying to beat her in here because there are capable horses of doing that. I just don't see her losing this race, and she didn't look great last time in a field of 5, but she was able to win by 3 lengths. The stretch run with Wildcat was very good at Belmont Park, and as you said, the personal ensign against Elite, who I'm giving a shot in the Classic with, was probably the best race at Saratoga. So Midnight Bishu here on top for me. The 3 is Street Band, and I thought Street Band heading in out of the Kentucky Oaks into the Indiana Oaks. She got 3 to 1 there. She looked great, beating Chocolate Kisses. And then the Alabama, she was flying late on a sloppy sealed track, going 1.25 miles. And they were, I thought Dunbar Road did enough that day, obviously on the front end, to kind of make it a little hard to win from off the pace like Street Band likes to, and the track service didn't help her that day, and she ran 3rd. And then in the Cotillion, I mean, she ran by Guarana. Guarana has looked great this year. Going from a maiden special weight slop win, I was against her at Keeneland, to Belmont Stakes Day, she romped, beating Serengeti Empress. Had a little help on the front end from Serengeti Empress. But then she came and won the Coaching Club American Oaks. So Street Band looked great. I thought the last 3 starts coming out of the Kentucky Oaks, I'm going to use her underneath with Sophie Doyle. Just a really cool story as well with Street Band. And then Dunbar Road. Dunbar Road won the Mother Goose. The Gulfstream Park Oaks lost by half a length to Champagne 91. Went in an allowance race, dominated. The Mother Goose could have won by more than 2 lengths. But the Alabama, as I said, she did enough from close enough to the pace to kind of hold off Street Band that day in the slop. Came in 3rd in the Spinster behind Blue Prize, who I'm going to use in the 4th spot. But if you're trying to beat Midnight Bishu, I'm not going to hold anything against you in here. But I went 4, 3, 5, and 11 into this staff.
All right, let's move on to race number 11, the Breeders' Cup Turf Grade 1 event. $4 million up for grabs, 1.5 miles on the grass.
10-1, 5-9. And Old Persian in here, for me, I think the Charles Appleby runner is his. The last start we saw in the Northern Dancer, I think that's a very good race for this race. The 1.5 miles at Woodbine is so unique, and it starts on the turn kind of like Belmont, and it's so wide. I think it's a good prep for this race, and Old Persian looked great in the Northern Dancer, beating Nessie in Focus Group. Now, I'm not a big fan of Focus Group. Focus Group has not really ran all that well in 2019. Focus Group did win down at the championship meet at Gulfstream, beating Melmich, but since then, Focus Group has not been great. That's the one thing I kind of hold against Old Persian, but how good Nessie looked the next time out for Ian Wilkes on the same race course at Woodbine, I gave the nod to Old Persian. Old Persian was 15 lengths off the lead to start, and then went right up, ran a 47.3 going 1.5 miles, and was able to win that day by 2.5. So I think Old Persian, the 1.5 miles is perfect for this horse. Has consistently ran well at the 1.5 miles over in Europe. And again, I thought the Woodbine race was more than impressive. The uniqueness of the 1.5 miles coming down the hill at Saratoga, I think it's kind of towards the Euros in here. I use Bricks and Mortar's fourth. I just don't think Bricks and Mortar's going to like the distance in here, but some of these replays are going to be some people are saying Bricks and Mortar, I think a stretch is going to be beneficial for him, and I can't disagree there. I mean, he's flying lead at 1.25 miles, 1.1 miles all the time, so the 1.5 miles could be beneficial for Bricks and Mortar. I'm just going to try to beat him in such a deep competitive field. But I'll talk about the 5 and the 1. Anthony Van Dyke, the Aidan O'Brien runner, ran well the last 2 of the 3. Lost to Enable and Crystal and Waldgeist, an absolutely stacked field in the King George. The next time out ran 3rd behind Magical and Magic Wand. We know 2 very good fillies. So Anthony Van Dyke has raced against better than in this race. And then I think Zulu Alpha has ran well this year. I'm trying to get a price underneath at 20-1 with Jose Ortiz and Mike Maker. Even on paper, it doesn't look like Zulu Alpha ran a great race. Last time out was 6 wide, couldn't run by Arklow and Channel Maker. In the Bowling Green at Saratoga, had a brutal trip with Jose Lascano. I was able to finish 5th by a length after being checked, getting stuck behind traffic in there. I've been a fan of Zulu Alpha this year. I'm going to use in my mix to try to get a price underneath, but it's the Breeders' Cup turf in here. I'm going to try to beat Bricks and Mortar. I went 10, 5, 9, 1.
I have it 9, 11, 5, and 12. I put Bricks and Mortar on top, 5 for 5 this year, and just to get them back after that layoff of really over a year has been phenomenal, and this horse has been phenomenal since that comeback. So 10 for 12 overall, 5 for 5 this year. Comes out of the win in the Arlington Million. I'll put Bricks and Mortar on top. Try for a little value, though, with Arklow, a horse I have liked throughout the year. Finally lived up to it with the win in the Turf Classic last time. But, boy, he's been knocking on the door all year long. And that he got it done last time signals in seasonal good form right now. Although, as I say, he's been in pretty good form throughout the season. Just hasn't been able to break through. Did it last time, though, in a 12-1 on the morning line. Arklow, very interesting. And then Anthony Van Dyke. It's Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore again with a Euro that I think has a lot of potential. 3rd to Magical last time. And that kind of says a lot because she would have been a handful for Sister Charlie had she come. Magical, however, came up with a little fever and wound up getting retired. But the 3rd to that one last time, as I say, I think flatters Anthony Van Dyke at least a little bit. In the Breeders' Cup Turf, 9, 11, 5, and 12.
All which brings us to the highlight this afternoon, this evening, at 8:44 post time for the Breeders' Cup Classic. $6 million on the line, going 1.25 miles for 3-year-olds and up. What did you see in the Breeders' Cup Classic?
8, 10, 11, and 5. I wanted to put a late in the mix. I wouldn't argue anybody off a late. I think she's very interesting. But I went with McKenzie. I just think, yeah, okay, 2 wins, only 2 wins and 6 starts with 4 seconds. I just think if you push comes to shove, he's the best older horse this year. Boy, the win in the Whitney was really good. The loss last time, certainly disappointing, but again, this horse is firing very good numbers. Question mark is the trip. Will he like the 1.25 miles? Well, certainly earlier this year in the Santa Anita handicap, he looked pretty good, just missing the gift box at 1.25 miles. So I'll put him on top. Again, I just think he's the best. Vino Rosso off the win, the track and the trip, 3 back in the Santa Anita Gold Cup, and the coming out of the nice performance in the Jockey Club Gold Cup last time. And then Code of Honor wins the Traverse, wins the Jockey Club Gold Cup on a DQ, in very, very good form right now, so we'll put him in the mix as well. And Yoshida scares me quite a bit. I think, no wins so far this year, so I just couldn't pull the trigger, but I would not be shocked to see Yoshida in the winner's circle after this race. Breeders' Cup Classic for me, 8, 10, 11, and 5.
I went with Yoshida on top in here. A couple reasons. I think he's going to get the trip he deserves. He's got Mike Smith on him now for Bill Mott. Mike Smith knows Santa Anita probably better than anybody. And the Woodward trip, I've watched that replay, I think, 100 times this week. And he did not get a great trip at all and was able to finish third. And he was flying late, splitting horses, finished third by a length as the favorite. The Whitney, he was flying late again, trying to catch McKenzie. He was just a little bit too far off the pace. So the 1.25 miles, I think it's going to fit Yoshida well. You're getting, as I said, Mike Smith. He's got a serious closing kick in here, and I think Mike Smith's going to keep him closer to the pace than where Joel Rosario has kept him in the Woodward and in the Whitney. Again, I think the two Mott horses are going to be flying late. Late's going to be a little bit closer to the pace, as she likes to sit right off the pace, and she's going to have to. She's facing the boys in here, and a lot of people think Midnight Bijou would be competitive in here, and she was more than competitive with Midnight Bijou in the personal ensign at Saratoga. So I like a late in this spot as well. Vino Rosso, 4-1. I'm not going to talk about the DQ in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, but Vino Rosso ran his best race of his career at Santa Anita going 1.25 miles. In the Jockey Club, in the Gold Cup at Santa Anita in a field of 7, beat Gift Box and Lone Sailor, and Gift Box has just looked unbelievable since last Christmas over the Santa Anita surface. So he ran a 106 last time, got DQ'd the Code of Honor. He ran his best race of his career at Santa Anita, 3 starts back, and has been working well for Todd Pletcher. So I'm against the 3-year-old crop, and it's just been so confusing this year. I'm not going to talk anyone off of an Owendale, a Math Wizard, and a War of Will or a Code of Honor if you're fans of the 3-year-olds in here. I just think this older group is a little bit tough, and I had to use all older in this spot, and then Elite, an older mare. So in the Classic, I went 5, 10, 6, and 8.
Sounds good. That wraps it up today. Things will go over to NBCSN for the early Breeders' Cup races at 3:30. NBC Sports Network go over to NBC proper for the Classic at 8 o'clock, so keep that in mind. Bet 100, get 100 again continues through today only, so sign up for a new account, bet $100 in, and you get $100 free money if you sign up for a new Capital OTB bet account. And again, Bankroll has obviously been selected. We're already into day 2. But if you are on the bankroll team, do remember that you have to wager through your account to stay alive for participation in the bankroll payout. New mobile site goes up on Monday, so keep that in mind. If you log in via your phone, you will get directed to the brand new mobile site. That'll happen on Monday. All right, let's wrap things up. Sully, good luck.
Good luck to you.
Sully has the late part of the day with his $1,000 bankroll. I have the early part. You can follow on Twitter or whatnot with the plays. Should be a lot of fun on this Breeders' Cup Saturday. All right, we're wrapping things up. Handicappers Report for Saturday morning coming up in a couple, racing across America. Please stay tuned.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.